Hello and welcome to another episode of Mo Digs Deeper. My name is Casmo and today is BlizzCon Eve because, well, the BlizzCon is drawing close and we are basically just one day away from the BlizzCon 2019. And oh boy, I am concerned. I think concerned is the right word here, to put it bluntly. Um, I've always looked forward for like most of the BlizzCon events, besides of the BlizzCons, where I basically did know that everything which is coming is not really that exciting. But this BlizzCon looks very different. We have already tons of leaks where we don't know any specifics, but we know what's coming. And oh boy, Blizzard needs that. They definitely need that because the last few weeks, or even the last 2 years, if you want to be a little bit more precise, have been nothing but, how can I put that? Problematic for Blizzard. The whole Hong Kong thing, how they handled it. Now with the World of Warcraft tournament, where people are not very happy how they handled that. With what was it called, Diablo Immortal, where you were just like flabbergasted of the whole announcement. Not that they made a mobile game. Like, come on, every developer is now making a mobile game, and it wouldn't be even the first mobile game Blizzard did. But like, just how they handled everything regarding that was just yeah, unprofessional, to put it bluntly. And you know, I sometimes hope that Blizzard takes a break. That Blizzard is just like, I don't know what they're doing right now in the background of the company. I don't know which shuffling is happening there. I know that Activision is trying to gain more influence. Blizzard had to fight back against it. It seems like they lost. And now it's just like a big cluster F behind the scene. And you are actually trying to figure out what the hell is going on with this company. And I've been following around Blizzard for decades. The first game I really got into was Warcraft 2. I remember that I played Warcraft 1 and I was just like, nah, this is not my spill. And then with Warcraft 2, it got definitely interesting. And then I basically, uh, I think I have every single Blizzard game. I think I'm owning every single Blizzard game and I've played it. I even had the chance a few years ago to do a little playthrough of Lords of the Clans, which was the adventure game Blizzard was working on, which was basically building the bridge between Warcraft 2 and Warcraft 3, and they never released that. And they released it kinda. They released a book, which was basically the story of Lord of the Clans, but Lord of the Clans was just super interesting to watch because that was like a major shift in the lore they had at that time. And yeah, I've been following Blizzard since and was always very interested in the company because the company was not just making great games, they were also making innovative games. Like Warcraft 3 is still remarkable, right? And then the last years I had the feeling that Blizzard just took a step back of everything, like just being a copy of itself over and over and over again. And the only game which at least got me a little bit of hope in the recent years was actually Overwatch. I know that some people will now say, but Team Fortress, yes, I know there were other games which were similar to Overwatch, but Overwatch was a new world, was a new IP, and it was different. It was the first time also Blizzard created a shooter, and I was very interested to see how they go with it. But now every game Blizzard has right now has reached a little bit the point where they feel like they ended the end of the line with it, and they don't really know where to go with it. So I'm actually looking forward to BlizzCon, but I'm also super worried about this because let's see what we have here. Yes, we have expansions, updates, patches for the games which already exists. Fine, nice, whatever. Not really something I want to focus on. But the big things I want to focus on is first Diablo 4. Diablo 4 is, well, more or less confirmed at this point. We had now the advertisement campaign in a German magazine where they were advertising a lore book, or not a lore book, an art book of Diablo, the Diablo universe, and there was also Diablo 4 mentioned in it. And then somebody got the chance to actually grab like an ebook reader or something of the new art book, even though it's not coming out yet. And they were also like talking about the bosses in Diablo 4, and they talked about one of the main enemies in Diablo 4, and it was just like, but what? So I'm pretty sure that Diablo 4 will be the announcement. And speaking of Diablo 4, if you're wondering what the hell is that in the background he is actually playing, the answer is I'm playing Lost Ark right now. Lost Ark is an action RPG MMO. Really, really fun game, but ignore the language in the background. They are not speaking English. This is technically the Russian version with an English patch, so ignore that weird talk they're doing there. And if something looks weird, just ignore it. But this is actually a game which is really good. It's one of the best RPGs and action RPGs I have seen in a very long time. They have a lot to offer. Not just fighting, also outside stuff you can do. Looks pretty, runs well, again feels fluent. And I'm just like, yeah, okay, that's Lost Ark. That's its own thing, which is coming out soon. And I'm just hoping that Diablo 4 is, is going with the times. Like, keep in mind, Diablo 3 has sold perfectly well. It has sold like a lot of units. They made tons of money out of it. We don't know how Reaper of the Soul actually do, because weirdly enough, Blizzard was very open to tell us how well Diablo 3 did, but they were not too open to tell us how Reaper of Souls actually did, so we don't really know. But what we have heard from multiple sources, Diablo 3 is dead. It's a dead game. Like, nobody is really playing it anymore, or not substantial enough to warrant any further development. And that is a huge issue, because when you look around, there were other games who took the weakness of Diablo 3 and just settled in. We have Grim Dawn, which is from former creators of Titan Quest. We have Titan Quest itself, which is now coming back with expansions and whatnot. And then we have, of course, the biggest action RPG right now, which is making millions over billions, and that is Path of Exile. Like, Path of Exile has showed, and hopefully Blizzard has seen this, what action RPG fans want. Yes, you don't have to be a fan of Path of Exile. Personally, I'm also not the biggest fan of Path of Exile, but they just show what a lot of people have expected after Diablo 2. Like, when Diablo 2 was out, a lot of people hoped that they would actually take the formula of Diablo 2 and would expand it with bigger talent trees, more abilities, more just to do in general, and just expanding on the formula which have already been in Diablo 2. And Blizzard just did the opposite. They took like 3 steps back and called it Diablo 3. Yeah, like, one of the biggest problems for me, I know that a lot of people always point out that the graphics of Diablo 3 were annoying and far too cartoonish, and I agree on that. I was not a fan of the graphics, but that wasn't really the reason why I stopped to play this game. I stopped to play this game because I had the feeling, after like 100 hours of gameplay, I was done with it. Or not even 100 hours. Much less. I was done with it. It wasn't really in depth. You couldn't go crazy on your character. When you look at Path of Exile, it's just like, whoa. And keep that in mind. Path of Exile has a convention in 2 weeks. 1 week? 1 or 2 weeks after BlizzCon. And they will basically announce the next mega expansion for Path of Exile. And they said they would treat this patch or expansion as if Diablo 4 was announced, and they would bring the big guns to fight Diablo 4. And keep in mind, that game has a foothold. That game is established. That game is drawing in numbers Blizzard is dreaming of. Blizzard, the company, is dreaming of the other success of another company. That's rather tough. So I really hope just Diablo 4 is something which is going with the time, tries something new, is not doing that weird item shop bullshit again. I'm pretty sure they learned from that one. They will not do that again. But it's just like, I so much hope they learn from Diablo 3. I so much hope that they can do better than that. That doesn't mean that Diablo 3 was a bad game. I know a good amount of people who actually enjoyed it. But in comparison to other action RPG games, I felt myself less compelled to look into the game after the first expansion too often. Like when I was done with the expansion, did 1 or 2 seasons, I basically reached a point where I was just like, okay, you know what? Nothing really new here. It's just the same thing over and over again. Why should I play this when I have Path of Exile, where every season feels different to a certain degree? So let's just stick with that. But yeah, that's the first game. And the second game they will probably announce is Overwatch 2, or Season 2, or Chapter 2. It will be another standalone game. And I'm really skeptical here. Like, Overwatch isn't that old. So you want to release probably another $60 game. With what? Okay, there will be a PvE mode, as far as we know. Okay, cool, nice. But what beyond that? Like, what is it? What do you do with the heroes? What new heroes do you have? Like, how much different are the maps? Like, it's just it feels a little bit like, as this is another idea Activision had, and was just like, yeah, let's put some Call of Duty into Overwatch and now release Overwatch in like 2 or 3 years on top of the other releases, and just becoming a repeating release, you know. And I'm just like, but what do you have to offer? Like, Blizzard was always a company who actually had something interesting to offer. And okay, PvE mode is nice. Don't get me wrong, a lot of people have asked for PvE because that is where they would play the game a little bit more, because they're not too much interested in the PvP. And I totally get that, and I totally support that. But it feels a little bit like, but what is for the other people there? Like, what is also with all the skins you collected in Overwatch 2? What is happening to Overwatch 1? Are you moving on? Like, do you slowly let Overwatch 1 die out, as you do with a lot of Blizzard games in the past? Like, they never have abandoned them, but they have slowly lowered the development cycle for these games. And it just feels like that Overwatch 2 is something which is not needed right now, because you could have just patched that in, but then of course, how do you ask money for that, right? I get that, but I think that would have been a better idea than just saying, hey, we have a new standalone game here, costs $60, you will basically lose all your progress, and that is now the thing you will play. And that you don't really have to do that shows another game like Rainbow Six Siege, right? Like, Rainbow Six Siege is now running for what, 5 years? I think they're running now for 5 years nearly, and they've just patched in stuff, and they have added more season passes to it, which is kind of like an annual release, right? But you never really had to go out there, buy a new $60 game, and also lose all your progress in that. So I'm really kind of skeptical also for Overwatch 2, because I just don't see a reason for it to come out right now. That like the only reason why an Overwatch 2 is needed right now for Blizzard is that the numbers of Overwatch 1 have been dropped drastically, and that a lot of people just left that game behind, which I could see could be an issue. So we will see. We will see. Um, we haven't heard anything about Diablo Immortal, which is a bit weird. So wait, what happened by the way with Diablo Immortal? I know you probably now believe you are not allowed to talk about it ever again in your life, but that was never the point. Like people were not necessarily mad that you had a mobile game in the pipeline, right? They were pissed on how you handled the whole situation, on how you handled the people who had legit questions about this, and you just brushed it off as, well, do you not have phones? I mean, we all know that meme. And it's just, now it became completely silent. Like, we haven't heard anything about that game in a year. Warcraft 3 Reforged is now in the closed beta. Cool. So that is moving along smoothly and probably gets released by the end of the year. It's rumored that it gets released around December, which makes sense because most releases are done and that might be a good time to release it. But yeah, BlizzCon, just from a gaming perspective, is already tough. Leaving aside all the other issues Blizzard has just running in the background, it's like this might be the most troubled BlizzCon in their entire careers. Like, at least for me, it's the most BlizzCon I've been skeptical about. Because I'm a little bit afraid on how they handle this. Because they haven't really showed that handling certain unplanned adventures are getting handled very well by anyone at Blizzard. And also from a gaming perspective, I'm like, okay, Diablo 4, you have to do a lot of work to get me interested in you again. And then there is Overwatch 2 where I'm just not sure why that thing is a thing in the first place. And I'm super skeptical about that. And I just hope, I personally just hope, as a former fan of Blizzard, who has all the Blizzard games in his library, has played them all multiple times, hundreds of hours in multiplayer or single player, I just hope that this BlizzCon might be even some sort of a redemption story for Blizzard, and that they come back from this. I really do hope so. But again, I'm super skeptical when I look into the past. So we will see how it goes. By the way, if you want to watch the BlizzCon with us together, at least the opening ceremony, because that's the only thing you are allowed to stream, you can go into my Mixer channel and watch it with us together. We will stream it at 2 p.m. East Coast time on Friday. And then we are watching all the things together. Should be a lot of fun. So, with that said, thank you so much for watching, folks. And I hope I see you next time. Till then, bye bye.